What's up, fam? What's going on, Dr. Brown?
Dr. Young, how you doing?
We're good. We are so good. Welcome to Fam Matters. That's right. Faith and mess. It all matters. And yes, you have two qualified doctors with absolutely unqualified opinions. They they messed around and allowed us to have a podcast. How's that possible?
I mean, it's really shocking. And what's more shocking is that y'all actually liked the first podcast when really we just recorded ourselves cutting up for 30 minutes. So let's ride until the wheels fall off.
Shout out to y'all. Thanks for all the love that we got. Don't forget, you can definitely listen to it. It's part of the Hey Young World podcast group. You can listen to it on iHeartRadio, Spotify. Just look it up. And please make sure that you hit us up at fammatterspod@gmail.com. Right there on the screen. Right there. It's right there. Right
Wow,
there.
that is so
You know,
cool.
look
We
at
are
it.
high tech, y'all.
For those who are listening, fammatterspod@gmail.com, and there's much more to come, so you definitely want to be checking that out. So I'm old, and we kind of talked
Yes.
about it last time. Stop your mess. You're about to start. Oh, first of all, before we do that,
Did you tell me stop my mess on the
on
Faith
the faith
and
and mess,
Mess
right?
podcast?
I did.
Wow.
What was I thinking about? This is literally
Literally, this is the purpose of this
this is
podcast,
the purpose of the podcast.
to be messy.
Um, you got me messed up, hit the doggone mic. I'm just all over the place. This is what it is, though. This is what it is.
This is real
So,
life.
any news that you can use? And do we have any news that you can use? Like, just something out there for the people, to something to give them, or anything, to give them something that that we can look out for. They can look out for.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so the answer is no.
The
News
answer is
they can
no.
use for what?
Yeah, for
I have
life.
a I have a mental health tip.
That's news
Is
we can
everyone
use.
ready? Okay.
Duh.
Y'all, he didn't tell me about this segment before he just asked me about it just now, so that's why I'm sitting here looking stupid.
I
Everything's
did
fine.
it. I did it. It's mess.
Messy. Anyway, here, because I comes prepared,
Oh, she
there's a
come.
new
That's
hotline
right.
number. It's a
Mhm.
mental health hotline that you can call instead of calling 911 when someone is having a mental health emergency. It's 988.
Hmm. 988.
988. So you can use it if somebody's having a mental health emergency, if you're having suicidal ideation and you feel like you're at risk. That's a great resource. News you can use.
Boom.
Boom.
988. I like that. So can I say that, I might call that like frequently. Can I call that
Thanks
like
for
my
preparing
my
me.
kids, like, I'm having a mental health emergency right now because they won't stop singing a song from a Disney Pixar movie. Can that be classified as that? No?
Absolutely not.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to make
We're
sure.
talking about people who have real problems.
Right. So, all right. Yes, I absolutely popped that up on you, and we're popping that on you too. News that you can use, not just mental health tips, right? But if there's something,
Right.
how in church we got announcements and stuff like that, like to pass on to the community, that's what we want to do. So once again, fammatterspod@gmail.com, fammatterspod@gmail.com. Pass it on. And that is also going to be helpful for you for our gospel grapevine and listener letters. So we want you to send something to us so we can include that on the podcast. Yes, we want to hear from you as well. If you think that, Jess is a little ratchet, it's okay. We want to hear
Wow.
that. If you think I'm awesome, yes, even that too. We want to
Wow.
hear. It's all up in it. All right.
Yeah, great. Y'all, please email us some stuff because do you really just want to hear this foolishness over and over for episode after episode?
We have
We
a
need
topic,
some outside
but
intervention. We
we
do
have
have a topic
you
today,
have a
so
topic though.
that's a blessing.
All right, so check this, right? I'm old. We were
Yes.
talking because that's what we do, siblings. I'm old, and I didn't know, y'all, what a stand was. We were talking about fans, and
You're
she was
so
like,
old.
Jess was like, yeah, somehow Stan. And I was like, Stan, who Stan is? Like, who that is? Who Stan? What you talking about? And she was like, "You don't know what a stan is?" And I'm like,
Did I
no.
say it like that?
You did
That's
say
how I
you
said
said it
it?
exactly like
Okay,
that.
okay.
Exactly.
I think you're taking some liberties here, Dr. Young, but it's fine, whatever.
There are okay, well, tell me how you said it, please. How
I
did you say it?
said, "You don't know what a stan is?"
Same thing. I did it the
No,
exact same way.
not the
So
same
for
thing.
all of you out there who may be like me, all right, I'm classifying myself as old. I'm not going to call you old unless you really are, but you may not know. Maybe you're old at heart or mind or whatever. You don't follow
Did you
pop
phone a
culture.
friend about a stan? Because I'm sure the other people in your home know what it is. Did you
I'm
ask your
not.
wife?
I'm no. I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
Maybe.
Did you
Maybe I
ask
will.
her about the math ain't mathin'? Because I know
Huh?
she knows that. Did you
The
ask her
what?
about the math ain't mathin'?
I didn't ask about that. I
Okay.
have to remember to so we can mention that on our podcast. I didn't still do podcast. That's right, Marriage
Check that
Monday.
out. It's so good,
Check it out.
y'all.
So the math ain't mathing, but right now we talking about the stand ain't standing. Because I didn't know
That
what stand was. That yeah, it was a bad attempt. I'm sorry.
you tried.
Let's reel that back in. So fan and stan. I need you to go ahead and do it since you so eloquently number one laughed at me for like a couple of minutes and then told me what the difference was.
Okay, y'all. So we were having a conversation about an artist, and I was like, "I'm a fan, but I'm not a stan." And that's when he was like, "Who is stan? What's a stan?" Yada yada yada. He went. It was ridiculous. Anyway, so a fan is someone who is appreciate an appreciator of a person's art or contributions. A stan is like a super fan.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I stand for XYZ.
Right. And when she said that, I got it. I was like, oh, like from Eminem. Duh. Oh, I get it now. Da, 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 da. Like,
Bless your
light
heart.
years later.
Light years later.
I didn't know that black people were using that. All my black people, my brown people, all my people. I didn't know that y'all were using it like that. I didn't. I missed it. I missed that one. I'm sorry. Missed it.
So we were
Missed
having
it.
this conversation about stands, and we
Hmm.
were talking about this idea that like it almost becomes like an identity to be a stan of a certain person or a certain um yeah, a certain kind of celebrity.
Now, we talked about this in particular because at this point it's a little bit old, but still,
Hmm.
people are still digesting one of the biggest artists in the world's album drops, the seventh studio album from Beyonce, Renaissance. Ba, 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 ba. Right, so people are still like going crazy over that. You're not really musical. You don't really like follow the musical
Yeah,
history
I'm not
genre
like a
like that.
music head like
Yeah,
some of
no.
y'all who. And
So
I was saying I'm a Beyonce fan. Like I appreciate her as an artist, but
right,
I'm not a Beyonce stan. So I wasn't like sitting up the night the album dropped. And at
I'm
the
not
time
one.
we had talked about it, I hadn't listened to the album. Like I heard Break My Soul because everyone was playing it
Oh,
everywhere.
oh, I
But
hate that song. Oh, I
so I have
hate that
since our
song.
last conversation though, I
Hate
have
that
listened to
fucking
the
song.
whole album.
Ugh. So first of all, let me hold on before you go there. Let me say I'm not the one. I'm not a fan. I'm not a stan. I'm a respecter. I look at her like I look at LeBron. All right. Please comment all you want. It doesn't matter. You want the email again?
Fam
Fammatterspot at
matters pod
gmail.com.
at gmail.com.
Um, but I respect LeBron. I respect what he's done for the game and all that. I am not a fan. I'm not going to fake. I wasn't a fan of Kobe Bryant, but I respected.
What?
I was not a fan of Kobe Bryant.
Oh
I,
my
I
God.
just was not. Once again, hear me out. All right, for everybody out there, and you as well, Dr. Brown. Um, you can respect somebody
Sure,
and
agree.
not be a fan of theirs. I didn't check for Kobe Bryant. I don't check for LeBron James like that. I actually like to root for LeBron James to lose. That's just me, but I respect his ability and his talent. Now, with Beyonce, same thing. If I watched the Beyonce video back in the day, I'd watch it with the volume down. I am not a fan, nor am I a stan. Not to say that she doesn't have some good songs and all that kind of stuff. If you want to be real, for me, I liked her first album. I did. I liked her first album. Did I listen to it multiple times? No. Not at all. And with this one, the entrance into this for me is, and then Dr. Brown, you can take it, was Church Girl. I saw something on my Facebook timeline from what she would probably call herself a church girl, talking about Beyonce's Church Girl. And so I was like, matter of fact, me and Carletta, we were like, oh, we're going to listen to this. Not only were we going to listen to this because we're old, we're going to listen to it with the lyrics on. So that's what we did. And at the end of it, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So that's me. So yeah.
So I'll say I have lots of things that I could potentially say. Number one, I'm not a member of the Beyhive. I'm a fan, but not a stan, right? I appreciate Beyonce like as an artist, as a performer.
Sure.
I think so. I understand the Saints were displeased with Church Girl.
Because it ain't about church. It ain't about church.
It's not about church, but I think Beyonce, part of her allure is that she narrates a lot of people's lives, right? And I think we are in this moment
Wow, that was well said.
Black culture, in and specifically like in the culture of Black womanhood, where Black women are reclaiming a lot of what was stolen from them by the Black patriarchal heteronormative church systems, right? And so, you know, there's plenty of think pieces, and I'm not going to join those people.
I think you just did. You just did.
But here's what I'll say, right? I think there's something really provocative, and because of what Beyonce has shared with us about her own creative process, I think she was being intentionally provocative around juxtaposing In His Will and a conversation about sexual freedom, right? Because Black women are not allowed in traditional patriarchal Black church spaces to occupy those two identities. But of course, we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so I understand why people were pissed about it. And I understand why some people felt so liberated by it. It makes a lot of sense to me. And I think it's interesting. I was listening to the album earlier today and I was thinking, I think artistically they're very different. But for me, a common thread between people like Mary J. Blige and Beyonce is you can like track their life evolution through their music. And I think a lot of the people too that are mad that this album has like a more house music bounce feel, have not given Beyonce permission to evolve as an artist. You know, like she's one of those people who
evolve. Is that the word we were using? Evolve?
It's the word I'm using.
Why?
Because evolution implies change and development over time.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't know if I would classify it as evolution. I mean, is it different from what she's done in the past? Yes, but can we really say that that's an evolution necessarily? I don't know.
Can you say that it's not just because you don't like it?
No. It's not. No, it's not about whether I like it or not. I mean, she could have because I don't like it because it's house music-y and because it's bounce music-y. And if I did love it, I don't know if I would still say that it's an evolution. I mean, she chose this particular genre of music to highlight and to celebrate, which once again, I think is dope. I think it's great. I think it's cool.
When I say evolution though, I mean just not being pigeonholed to do the same kind of music over and over again.
Well, then why don't you say that? So they're using a big word.
Because I have an expansive vocabulary that I've paid a lot of money to use.
Yes, you do. You guys want to hear
Let's move on. So, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by Dr. Young. I think that a part of the allure of this album in particular, one, is that it does pay homage to a community that has historically been left out of the music industry. And two, I think she's giving voice to those like intersectional spaces that a lot of Black women occupy. And Black people in particular.
The intersectional spaces. I love it. The intersect, that's the church sake when it's really good. Like, you can't even say nothing.
I'm not going to apologize for being smart.
I feel like that was a little bit of shade at me, but that's
all right. It wasn't because you know exactly what I'm saying. You're just being
I'm gonna keep going.
intentionally difficult
No,
because
I,
we need
I'm like,
content for the podcast.
I just, so let me back up real quick. I agree. I agree with everything you said. And here's the thing, y'all. I think why people, so many people get in trouble on Facebook and Twitter, it's even Instagram and all these other things, is because people don't realize that you can think two things that are not
Mhm.
necessarily, in concert all the time. So I can agree with everything you just said, because everything you said, in my estimation, is the truth. The voices that she's representing now, have been marginalized in the music industry. The music that she's putting out there, it is different than what she has done before. And so it's really cool that, right, we can't, and now at this point in 2022, pigeonhole Beyonce to just being that kind of an artist. She
Sure.
did okay, she went out there and did that. And then to be able to highlight this duality of sorts that has existed, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
we
always
know
been
has
there.
existed,
Sure.
but just hasn't been talked about. So yeah, okay. When you said that, I get it. And still at the same time, I'm just like, I'm over it.
Well,
It's
and that's
whatever.
okay because I think the other thing we have to reckon with is like it ain't for everybody, you
It's
know?
not.
And
It's
that's okay. But it's interesting because I say all that and I'm probably not gonna listen to the album too many more times. Like I respect it, but like I said, I'm not really a stan. So it's not, I get it, I understand it, and I enjoyed it. Like I was,
be
it's full of bops.
Beehive.
So
Beehive people to me are like Dallas Cowboy fans. They're annoying as
here
heck.
we go. But the
I'm
other piece of
sorry.
this
They
conversation
they can
that
be
we were,
annoying as heck. They are. I want to say another word, but I'm not going to say it because you said that we said something bad on the last podcast. So I'm
I
not
said
going
we
to.
said something
Well,
bad.
you did say, but you didn't care that we said it. You didn't care that we said it. So
Right,
so it's like everybody has to bow down to Beyonce.
right.
Everybody has to, and so that's the whole standing part. But here's the thing. Here's a hard left, right? Here's the hard left for you. Um, the same thing exists with Trump. The
Well, so that's what I was gonna say.
very
I
same
find it
thing.
very problematic that, oh, this is y'all, people who know me in real life know I'm not really this churchy in real life, but I do think we make idols of people with this like stand ideology. I don't know if
Yes,
it's an ideology. And so I do think Beyonce falls into that category, right? I think there are
yeah,
people who really worship her because they worship her. You know what I mean? And I think Trump falls into that category. I
absolutely.
think pick your televangelist or Instagram preacher falls into that category. And so to me, I'm purposely not saying names, but to me, I think it's really interesting, like just what gets people to that point of being so infatuated with some person. And it's usually some person that you don't even really have contact with or access to.
But you said it earlier. You said earlier that with Beyonce's music, it in essence, narrates the soundtrack of your own life, right? So we understand that. And I think here's the difference between like the
Her life, not
Beyonce
my
and the,
life.
huh?
Her life, not my life.
No, no, no. I mean, well, I took it as you were saying. It narrates the soundtrack, not even just of her life, but of those who are listening, because it's the same effect. It's the same effect that Billie Eilish had. It's the same effect that Trump has. Here's the difference, though. I would say between a Beyonce or Trump, and that is Trump's was contrived. This is stuff that I think Beyonce
Oh, I
is
don't think it's
has gone through.
contrived though. I don't think it's contrived with Trump.
What? Are
I
you
think he
crazy?
I
Trump
think
doesn't believe this mess. Not fully. Not fully. No way.
but what I mean by that is I think a part of the reason he has been so successful is because he named the internal experiences of people who felt like they had been silenced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so that's
Right.
why I said I don't think it's contrived because I think he represents an actual like ideology, a way of being in the world. It's not his.
Right.
So I
That's what I'm
appreciate what you're
talking about.
saying,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think it's,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
no, go ahead.
No. Absolutely. and so for people who to make your point or try to make your point
To
because
make
I'm
my
not you,
point. Okay.
but the people who could identify with church girl that you were talking about, right?
Hmm.
They're the same ones who can say, "Hey, I am evangelical Christian for whatever that's worth. I have a biblical worldview, and yes, in this world, I have concerns about abortion. I have concerns about marriage. I have concerns about da 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 da. So yes, absolutely, these people exist, and he was able to hop on that
Hmm.
and use it for whatever. And these people, in my estimation, have become stands because even for him because they didn't care about who he actually was or even is. They didn't
They
care
don't
about that.
know.
It was all about what they perceived he believed that they shared.
But I also think there's this pattern of the people who like end up being idolized in that way. And I haven't fully thought this out. So if it sounds stupid at the end, I'm sorry, y'all. I think there's like a particular strategy, and I would say Beyonce engages this as well, of like curating a public persona in a particular way
Oh
so
yeah,
that
yeah.
people don't actually know who you are. And because I respect people's privacy, I don't really even think we have a right to know who they are. But what I'm saying is, I think it's easy for us to project sameness onto people if we only have this narrow window into their life,
Mhm.
right? Like if I think about it too hard, I don't have anything in common with Beyonce except that we're both black women and we have children. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
her life is light years away from mine. But because she's made a very particular choice to only share snippets of her life, which I actually really respect, and she curates her like social media presence, she
Mhm.
curates everything.
She does, but she
I,
has to.
she
She
has
has
to,
to.
and I deeply respect that. So this is not a criticism, but I'm saying it's easy to project onto her, oh, she's like me in all these ways, because I have to use my imagination to fill in the blanks.
Mm. I think though, so if you're talking about something, so politics and art, are deeply personal. I would probably say, art seems to be. This is me once again. I might be qualified. This is an unqualified opinion. I have no stats to back up what I'm about to say. It seems to me, and we've had this conversation about art, that art just really it takes people to that very personal space
Mhm.
where you really believe that if she's saying this or he's saying this, then this is who they are, right? If it's like, and I hate to put this out here, but R. Kelly or a Bill Cosby or a Deshaun Watson or a Michael Jackson, yes, all men, all terrible like that. So some people can separate the art from the
Mhm.
person, but some people can't separate the art from the person because Bill Cosby was Cliff Huxtable, and it became deeply personal for black people, especially at that time. It almost shattered their world. Some like me who would like, okay, well, I can still watch the Cosby Show and appreciate the art, but know that the artist is terrible. But art becomes deeply personal in that way, so we feel like we can identify with this person who is putting these lyrics out here, these words to this beat, and it's like, yes, I feel that. I mean, how many times have I ridden, in my car listening to whatever hip hop artist I'm listening to, and just like, oh, yeah, just feeling it like, man, yes. I mean, on some, not on some thug stuff, but on some real stuff that they may say, and it hits that chord, and it
Mhm.
feels like, yes, they know who I am. They don't, but
But it's the
we
point of
share that feeling.
connection, right? It's the point of
It's a
connection.
connection.
And I think particularly as Black people, we feel that differently and we feel that more intensely because we haven't always been able to look up,
Mhm.
figuratively up, and see people who we could connect with in a deep way. And so I think it hurts more when somebody like Bill Cosby
Mhm.
falls. But, and here's the bone to pick for me, I think and this is the danger of that idolization, is that we have a hard time admitting when people are no longer representing us well.
Mm. Yeah.
Like all the people who had to sit by and allow R. Kelly to be a predator
Right.
just because he was making them money,
Right.
or he like
It's
I
crazy.
just but that's our problem.
Mm.
When you operate from a scarcity mindset, you can't let anybody go,
Mm.
because who's left? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm risking like really getting on a soapbox here that I'm trying to measure, because you know how I am. But like, when I'm doing consultations about generational trauma, a part of what I talk about is like, when you have been fighting for your life and when your community has been fighting for a spiritual and emotional life, it feels like a loss to give any one of us away, even if we know they have done harm,
Mm.
because it feels like it's doing more harm to give them over to them than it is to just kind of handle it in house, so to speak.
Mm.
And as somebody like, as a mental health professional, I see the poison that is for us as individuals and for us as a community, but I also understand the logic behind it. It's a logic of illness and of scarcity and of being unwell, but it's a logic.
Mm. Well, don't worry. We ain't gonna get B away. We ain't getting B
But
away.
I do,
You
like,
know.
I wonder what would happen if there was some huge scandal, right? Like even the whole situation with her and Jay-Z and him cheating and Solange beat the
Oh,
brakes off him in the elevator and all that,
oh,
right? Like,
oh, oh, I
what did
loved
they
it.
do? They made albums about it
They made albums
and
about it.
people loved it. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
and that's what she's going to do. She is going to commoditize her pain and commoditize her, her stuff. And I think that people are here for it,
yeah,
no matter which way it goes. I just do. But here's the thing. I don't think that R. Kelly was like I keep going back to him because the whole mute R. Kelly thing, it still fascinates me. But I don't think that was like, oh, this is what is to come necessarily. I just still believe that people are going to pick and choose. And even people with him, that when the special came out, of Surviving R. Kelly, they were like, yeah, I'm giving all my stuff away, I'm throwing it in the trash. But these are the same Bahamas that after they threw their stuff in the trash,
why they gotta be
re-download it.
Bama's?
His greatest hits, like, you know what? I'm rocking the R. Kelly now. It's 2 years later. All right, dog, we get it. So it's not like that's a trend to come. So I think that there is a kind of safety that she will have, number one, because she knows and yes, anything can happen, but she also knows how to use it. Her and
Yeah,
Jay,
I think
like,
that's true.
they are masters
They're
of it.
masterminds, yeah,
They
without a doubt.
master. So yeah, it's
But
crazy.
so here's the other thing too, and this is one of the occupational hazards of being a mental health professional is, like, if you look at people like R. Kelly or, other people who've kind of been in that predator position, you also see that behavior really stems from, I hesitate to use the word brokenness. I think it really stems
Mm.
from like unresolved trauma, right? And so that's, for me, that's not an excuse. You're still accountable for your behavior.
But that's not brokenness. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just
I don't like that term because I think people like attach a permanence to the word brokenness that I don't buy into.
okay.
So
So
I
they can
do think
use it.
it's,
They can keep using it.
yeah,
To the
you're like,
detriment.
I'm broken. Like, no,
Right.
you're not. You've experienced trauma. You have
Mm.
work to do, but none of us is broken.
Mm.
I don't buy into that mentality. But I think part of the challenge for me, and this is the part that's really frustrating, is we can have these like really loud black and white arguments about the public figures, and we haven't figured out how to reckon with the people in our families who are living these same realities. They
Right.
just are on
Right.
paper, right? So
Right.
whether it's, the person who we've idolized and then all of a sudden they have a baby pop up where it shouldn't have popped up,
Mm.
or the marriage ain't right because somebody was sleeping with, like all of these scandals that can happen. And we don't know how to have those conversations because we haven't figured out how to have nuanced discussions. We haven't figured out how to hold people accountable without canceling them. We
Mm.
haven't figured out how to call a thing and tell people maybe you do need to take some time away, or maybe if you're going to be publicly celebrated, then there might also need to be a period of public atonement, right? I don't know what that looks like. It depends
Mm.
on your context, but I
Yeah.
think we as a faith community don't do that well. We don't know how to have conversations about it. And I think it does us a disservice because this stuff is happening in our families and we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know. You have a conversation about don't leave so and so around Uncle Bobby,
Right. Right. Right.
but you ain't talked to Uncle Bobby about him being a predator. Make
No,
that make sense. You know what I
it
mean?
doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
But that's what I'm saying. When you're operating from a lens of being in survival mode and being traumatized, you don't have the resources you need to
Mm.
make those kinds of conversations happen. And so I think these public conversations that we have for me are a mirror of what's going on behind closed doors.
So, and you mentioned, you mentioned that the faith community doesn't. This is why it's faith. It's called faith
Faith
and
and
mess. This is
mess.
why we're even talking about this because as two uh, confessed church kids,
Hmm.
growing up in church, we see a lot in our generation. Um, our generation, we really are at that point where we are, even though we're not that far apart in age, we are still two different generations. And so
Hmm.
even both of our generations, have suffered from some of those things that you're talking about. And it's just like, we've got to stop. We can't just continue to gloss over stuff saying we're going to pray about it. Yes, I believe in the power of prayer, but I also believe in therapy. I also believe in calling a thing and dealing with it and
Absolutely.
digging that out. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like it's a sermon is only as good as the action that's going to come from it. That we have always relied on the power of the Holy Spirit, to motivate, to inspire, to heal, all these kinds of things. But in a collection of bodies where you have I'm not going to use your word because usually I would have said broken people, but in a collection of bodies we have people that have been traumatized and continue to hurt others. you know how do we deal with that, in that space of, we can't keep pushing this under the rug, and we cannot continue to be. I never forget, I preached a sermon, how not to be, or how to avoid being a messy church. People said amen, but guess what? Still mess.
But, and for me, it's even what if we just acknowledge that we are messy? Like maybe we can't get unmessy, but we can commit to like being with each other through the process.
You mean like less messy? We're gonna be messy, just gonna be less
That's what I'm
messy.
saying. That's why I said we can't get unmessy. That ain't gonna happen
That
because
ain't gonna happen.
we
You're
know,
right, because we're still human, and
because
we're
people
not
be
dead.
peopling.
That's when
People
we get
be
unmessy, right?
peopling.
When we get dead.
Hopefully.
Look,
But and let's be real. So I am technically a millennial, right?
yes.
The- People love to talk about how millennials leaving the church, right? What
Mhm.
we don't talk about is maybe the reason some of millennials are leaving the church. Ooh, I was about to say another bad word. Is
Mm.
because churches
Say
are
it.
not honest.
Say it.
I was going to use another terminology, another Negro terminology. Churches are not honest about number one, when mess happens, we don't actually address it.
Mm.
Number two, if we do address it, it's halfway and there's no accountability. And number three, when we have these issues that are really impacting people's lives, let's be real, prayer is not enough.
Mm.
We love to joke about speaking in tongues and the spirit said this, the spirit said that. Did the spirit tell you to act right or go back and apologize for when you acted a fool?
Mm-mm. Sure didn't.
Did the
Spirit don't say
spirit
that
tell
to me.
you to stop being manipulative and stop
No,
treating people any kind of way?
because I'm not being that. Mm-mm. All I'm doing is I'm keeping it real, and the Spirit told me to keep it real.
Hmm.
When keeping it real goes wrong,
Keeping it real goes wrong.
and it can go
It
very,
can,
very wrong.
absolutely. And we talked about this last episode. I am a proponent of honesty,
Mhm.
right? I think we
Yes,
should
even
tell
when
the
it
truth.
hurts. Yes.
But when we're in relationship with people, we can do that in a way that doesn't rupture the relationship. But I think a lot of us are just committed to saying we go to church, to a transactional relationship with God, and we miss the piece about what it means to really be relational and that being a part of our responsibility as believers.
Because
Like,
it's also largely I mean, I don't want to say a facade,
it's
but
performative.
it's performative, and we're really not in relationship with these people. We see them every week, but we don't really have genuine relationship with most of these people.
And for me, that's problematic.
Well, what are you going to do? So like, are we going to
Well, I actually wrote this book about how we can build relationships with people in
nah?
church. But anyway, I do think, but seriously,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, Buck.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think for
Buck.
me, like that's a part of it's a part of why people can't figure out how to be believers and reckon with their mental health, right? Is because what we know as mental health professionals is that people heal in the context of relationship.
Mhm.
But if my relationships are inauthentic, then they're not safe places for me to heal. So I begin thinking something is wrong with me, or maybe I'm just not praying hard enough, or maybe I'm broken and I just can't.
It's look,
How do
we
we
got
get here? Wow.
to. I think we have to. Number one, this is going to be a part two. We're going to tell you that right now. This is going to be a part two because we got to skate, but there's so much to say to continue to say about this particular topic. How to relate to people when you don't have that time, that space, or
Yeah.
even that energy. That's worthwhile to talk about.
And to
Dr.
tie it
Brown,
back to what we were originally talking about,
see,
it's
there you go.
easier
See,
to attach yourself to the idol than to attach yourself to the real people.
boom, boom. Did you just drop the mic? Did you just drop the mic? All right, she dropped the mic. When she drops the mic, that means it's time to roll.
We've done all we can do here.
Don't forget, yes, we are part of the Hey Young World podcast group, but we are on our own. Fam Matters, all right? Faith and Mess with Emmett and Jess, Dr. Young and Dr. Brown. Don't forget, hit us up, fammatterspod@gmail.com. fammatterspod@gmail.com. And for all those watching, please like this video. Please like the video. I ain't too proud to beg. Like it. Subscribe to the channel,
That
please.
was
Let
awkward.
us know. What'd you say?
That was
What was it?
awkward.
That was awkward. That was too much. A little too
I
much.
mean, it's there, so
No,
God bless.
I never when I get in my singing mode, I just never know exactly when to start. Well,
You
sorry,
should
not
stop
sorry. I'm
before
not
you
sorry.
begin.
I'm not sorry at all.
I
Like
know.
it, subscribe. We appreciate the love that you've already showed us, and we hope that and pray that the love will continue to be there. Until the next time, it's been Fan Matters. This is Dr. Young.
This is Dr. Brown.
Later.
Bye.
Boom.